Huh. Another clean kill. It's kind of funny. I heard some dude in a freaking demon mask using me as a publicity stunt. He says that he's gonna hunt me down. Well, I wish him luck. What? Huh? Alright. Come out, whoever you are. I won't hurt you. Huh. Okay. Must be my nerves getting to me. Well, as I said, anybody come to get me in trouble, I wish them luck.
You should really be more careful what you wish for.
What the heck?
As I said, one should really be a little bit more careful what they wish for. Here, let me provide another example in tonight's story about a young lady who made a wish she never should have made. Enjoy.
It was a dark and quiet Halloween night at the home of two children named Mike and Sarah. Mike was excited to go trick-or-treating again this year, but as for his sister, Sarah thought Halloween was stupid, childish, and for babies.
Mike, why don't you just grow up? You're getting way too old for trick-or-treating, and I have way better things to do than to watch you all night.
Come on, Sarah. You used to love Halloween just like I do now. What made you into such a sourpuss?
Sarah sighed and looked down, trying to think of a reason why Halloween was such a childish holiday. She couldn't think of one, so she just said what came to her mind.
I don't have to have a reason, I just do. Halloween is just for babies and for losers like you. Even my friends tell me that my little brother is a loser and a baby dressing up for Halloween and getting free candy.
Your friends are wrong. You know they just don't have a life themselves. So they spend day in and day out making fun of people when they should be feeling sorry for themselves and their horrible lives.
After hearing this, Sarah got mad and stormed out of the living room. She went to her bedroom, locked the door, and turned on her radio. She laid on her bed and put her face into the pillow, screaming into it out of frustration and anger.
God, my brother is such a freaking loser. I just wish he would either grow up or go away.
Unknown to Sarah, her wish would come true after saying she wished her brother would disappear. Her fantasy would become a reality that night on Halloween. Later that night, after futile arguments with her mother and father, she was forced to take her brother out trick-or-treating. She walked out the door with her brother Mike wearing a grim expression on her face, feeling mad. She hoped the night would end soon, looking at her brother with anger in her eyes, but calmly said to her brother,
Well, I hope you're happy, buttwipe. You got your wish. Now go on, go get your damn candy. I hope you choke on it.
Mike looked back at her and stuck his tongue out and replied,
You don't have to be such a jerk about it. Enjoy the holiday like you used to.
Don't call me a jerk, you snotwipe. And no, I'm not going to enjoy your holiday that's only for babies. You can forget about it, butt licker.
Fine, I will. You're still a jerk, Sarah.
Mike ran off into the crowd of children and out of his sister Sarah's sight, blending in with the crowd. This made Sarah quite furious with Mike, so she went to run after him.
Mike! Get back here! This isn't funny. You know Mom and Dad are going to be pissed off if they find out that you took off without me.
Sarah ran after him, hoping to catch up, but it was too late. He was already gone, and she couldn't find him anywhere. Minutes turned into hours, and Halloween was about to come to an end at midnight. Sarah's frustration turned into panic and fear as she called out to her brother.
Mike! This isn't fucking funny anymore. Come out, please!
Sarah continued to search for her brother Mike as midnight struck. The streets were vacant and clear, but there was no sign of Mike anywhere. Sarah sat down on the end of the sidewalk and curled up and started to cry, thinking about what could have happened to her little brother, and what type of punishment awaited her if her parents found out she wasn't keeping a good eye on him. She sat there sobbing for a good minute until she heard a voice coming from deep within the dark.
Don't cry, Sarah. This is exactly what you wanted, for your brother to disappear. So now he's with us for all eternity.
Wait, what? No, this is not exactly what I wanted. I said that out of anger. It wasn't true. I want my little brother back.
I'm sorry, Sarah. We can't give him back. Once someone makes a wish, it's fine.
Sarah got up and started to walk towards the thing in the shadows, now angry and pissed off beyond belief. The only thing on her mind was to get her brother back from whatever this was. She got closer to the voice, and once more in an angry tone it said,
Don't come any closer, Sarah, or your brother will die a horrible death.
Sarah stopped in her tracks, still angry, and started cursing at the hidden being in the shadows.
Don't you dare lay a hand on my little brother, you damn monster, or I will!
Sarah was cut off by the entity's demonic laughter.
You'll do what, Sarah? Kill me? There have been people who tried but failed. Miserably. And you think you'll be different? You made that wish and I made it come true, so live with it, Sarah.
This would be the entity's last words, as his voice faded off into the distance. Poor Sarah dropped to her knees and started to cry, feeling guilty for what she had done to her little brother Mike.
I'm so sorry, Mike. I'm so sorry. I never should have made that fucking wish. If only I had told you why I hated Halloween so much, this wouldn't have happened to you.
Sarah started to cry. She cried for a good while, then finally got up off the street and headed home, dreading the thought of telling her mother and father what had happened to Mike. As she got home, she slowly opened the door where her mother's voice welcomed her home happily.
Welcome home, you two. Did both of you have fun tonight? I hope you got yourself some yummy candy, but don't eat it all at once tonight.
Sarah's mother walked out of the kitchen and saw Sarah by the door with tears in her eyes. She looked around for Mike.
Sarah, where's your brother?
Sarah looked at her mother as tears dripped down her face and onto the carpet. She tried to calmly go into detail of what happened, but all she could say was,
Mike is gone, Mom. He isn't coming back. He's gone forever, and it's all my fault. I'm a terrible big sister.
Sarah's mother grabbed her by the shoulders and shook her frantically, bursting into tears, yelling at Sarah.
What do you mean he's gone? You were supposed to be responsible for him.
I know, Mother, I'm a terrible person, okay? I know I should have been watching him, but I was so selfish. Is that what you want me to say? That I'm a selfish little jerk, that I don't deserve to be your daughter?
Sarah's mother slapped her with extreme force.
Stop it. Stop feeling sorry for yourself and tell me what happened to your brother. Right now.
Sarah ripped away from her mother's arms, ran to her room and locked the door and leaned against it. She dropped to her knees once more to cry. That night, when her father got home from work, her mother explained to him what had happened. He went to Sarah's room, knocked on the door, and with a calm voice, he said to her,
Sarah, sweetie, it's Daddy. Please come out of your room and tell us exactly what happened to your brother Mike. Your mother is sorry for what she did. We just want to know what happened. Please, honey. We're not mad. We're just scared.
Sarah got up off the floor and leaned against the door. She took a deep breath and slowly turned the knob to open the door and came out to where her father was standing. She tried to explain to him what happened to Mike.
Dad, me and Mike got into a huge fight and he ran off into the crowd of people. I tried to find him, but he was nowhere to be found. That's when I got scared. After a while, something weird happened.
What happened, sweetheart? You know you can tell us anything as long as it helps us find out what happened to your brother.
Even if I did tell you, Dad, you wouldn't believe me.
You don't know that, Sarah. I'm a very open-minded man, especially if it helps find one of my children.
Okay, fine. Here's what happened. After I got through searching for Mike, I sat down on the curb and started to cry. That's when I heard a voice coming from the darkness telling me that they had Mike. They said something about me making a wish, saying that I wished for Mike, that Mike would go away, but I didn't mean it, I swear.
Sarah started to cry again as her father looked at her and started to cry as well. He knew that she meant every word that she said, and she was serious no matter how impossible it was.
Sarah, sweetie, I believe you. Don't cry anymore, honey. We will get your brother back, no matter how long it takes.
At the suggestion of the police, they stayed home while the police scoured the neighborhood for Mike to no avail. The next day, they started to put up flyers and posters for their missing son and brother, to see if anyone had seen Mike. Days went by, turning into months and then years, with no trace of Mike anywhere. 3 years later. 3 years had passed, and Sarah was still haunted by what happened to Mike. She couldn't seem to forget what happened, and it brought back an old memory that she was going to tell Mike. She was going to tell him that 3 years before he disappeared, when she was just a little girl, something happened to her. One Halloween night, she went out trick-or-treating with her mother and father. She, too, was separated, and when she went to look for them, she came across a man in a devil's mask. He picked her up and tried to force her into his car. She didn't know what the man would have done if it wasn't for her father showing up and punching the guy and then rushing her away. It could have gotten way worse. Just the thought of that memory had Sarah in tears, and she didn't want to think about it anymore. She was now more focused on figuring out how to get her brother back.
I'm so sorry, Mike. If only I had told you that, maybe you would have understood why I hated Halloween all those years. I promise you, Mike, I will find you and I will bring you back.
October 31st, Halloween night. Sarah got dressed and headed out to search for the entity to see if she could get her brother back. She looked everywhere to find any sign of this thing's whereabouts. She was about to give up the search when she decided to take a break. She sat down on the sidewalk, unbeknownst to her. That was the same sidewalk she sat upon those 3 years ago.
It's no use. No matter where I look or how hard I search, I will never be able to find that monster that took my little brother, Mike.
As she sat there, wallowing in her self-pity, her phone started to ring.
Hello?
It was Sarah's mother calling to tell her to come home and give up her silly search.
Sarah, sweetie, it's time to come home. I know you're upset about your brother, but it's been 3 years, honey. You have to come to the realization that your brother's gone and he's never coming back.
I'm sorry, Mom, but I can't do that. I can't come home just yet. I know Mike is still alive and still out there. I'm not coming home until I have my little brother in my arms and you have your son back in yours.
Before Sarah's mother could say anything else, she hung up without hesitation.
Sarah, please!
After hanging up on her mother, Sarah got up and started to continue her search. That is, until she started to get cold chills down her spine. Something didn't feel right.
Something doesn't feel right here. I haven't felt this way since that night, Mike.
Before she was able to finish her sentence, a shadow of darkness enveloped her and the night around her. She was now in a world of darkness, but she wasn't afraid. That didn't mean she didn't have a sense of regret surrounding her mind. She looked around, wondering where she was. Could this be where Mike had been taken? As she thought this, something responded in the dark, almost answering the question she'd asked in her mind. It was the same voice she'd heard 3 years earlier.
Yes, my dear, this is indeed the place that your brother was sent. Now that you're here, you can never leave either. We know you've been looking for us, and now that you've found us, you'll be trapped here. Ha! Ha 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 ha!
Stop laughing, you bastard! Give me back my little brother and let us go!
The entity laughed again and responded back with a more hateful tone.
Listen here, child. You're not the one who makes demands. We do.
Tears started to form in Sarah's eyes as she begged it to let her see her brother.
Please. All I ask is to see my little brother. That's all I want. It's all I ever wanted. I need to tell him that I'm sorry and that I love him.
The entity agreed to her request.
Fine, as you wish, my dear.
As the voice said this, a figure emerged from the darkness. It was Sarah's brother Mike, and it looked as though he hadn't aged a day. He was malnourished and looked as if he hadn't eaten in years. As Mike approached his sister Sarah, he held his arms out to hug her. He finally wrapped his arms around her waist and collapsed from hunger. Even though he hadn't aged a day, he did look older in appearance due to the lack of food. She could see his jaw and cheekbones. She could feel his ribs through the costume he'd worn years before. He was nothing but skin and bones. This made Sarah furious.
What have you done to my brother? He's nothing but skin and bones. You monster starved him to near death.
Sarah set her brother down on the floor and started to walk towards the direction of the voice. The entity spoke up in an angry tone.
Stop right there. Don't come any closer, you foolish girl. Your brother may be malnourished, but he's still alive. We kept him alive our way by giving him supplements. They keep you alive, but cannot make you gain weight.
Look here, you bastards. My brother is dying and needs to come home with me so he can be treated and fed properly.
No. We told you he stays here with us for all eternity, and now you will bear the same fate.
No, we will never stay here with you. Why don't you come out and face me, you cowards? Stop hiding behind the darkness.
You foolish girl. You have no idea what you're asking. If that's what you wish, so be it. This will be your last wish.
After the entity spoke, the ground started to shake under Sarah's feet. A huge form started to come out of the darkness, standing 7 feet tall. It had glowing green eyes and pale, scaly skin. Its fangs were as long as spikes, and blue drool was dripping down from its chin. It had the ears like a cat, and a nose like a dog, sharp claws like a reptile, and a long tail. When Sarah saw the creature's true form, she let out a loud scream. The creature started to laugh at Sarah's fear. It was very amused.
What the hell are you?
Sarah asked with fear in her voice.
I am the entity of Halloween wishes. I only appear to those in desperation. People like you, my dear little girl. You make a desperate wish, and I grant it. It can't be reversed no matter how hard you try.
The creature explained.
Please, can't you reverse this one wish? That's all I'm asking.
The monster looked at Sarah and thought about it long and hard before he spoke with one simple answer.
No.
At the monster's answer, Sarah started to rush at the beast, jumping onto it, thrashing at it with her long nails. This infuriated the spirit. He grabbed Sarah by her hair and flung her to the ground like a rag doll.
You stupid child. You think you can hurt us. You can never hurt us. We are all powerful. We are something out of your realm.
Sarah picked herself up off the ground, battered and bruised. She was determined to keep fighting this thing no matter how powerful it may seem. She couldn't do it with her hands alone, she realized. That's when she felt something on the ground by her feet. She bent down to pick it up. It was a sharp, metallic object. And why it was there, Sarah didn't know. She didn't care. All she knew was that this is what she needed to help her possibly slay the beast. The monster turned around and took his eyes off Sarah. That's when she knew this was her time to strike. His guard was down, so Sarah again started to rush the beast, jumping onto his back. She let out a huge yell as she said,
Die, you beast!
Sarah drove the sharp object right into the back of the monster's head as it let out a demonic scream. Sarah continued stabbing the monster over and over in the back of the head as the darkness started to fade away. The beast began to reveal itself once more as Sarah stabbed the monster. She started to notice that they were returning home as the monster's influence broke. Sarah made sure the monster wasn't moving, that it was truly dead, before she lodged the sharp object deep into its brain and got off of it. Quickly, she grabbed her brother and softly whispered into his ear as they started to run home.
Welcome back home, butthead.
Mike opened his eyes, coughed, and smiled before he responded.
Thanks, Toe Sniffer.
As they ran, Sarah heard something from behind her. She foolishly turned around and saw the monster. It wasn't dead, but badly injured and calling out to her.
No one dares to escape me. I will be back next year. All it will take is one wish for me to return.
The voice rang in Sarah's ears as the monster disappeared into the darkness. Sarah clutched her brother's hand in hers and ran straight home. She ran for quite a while, dragging her brother by the hand, until they made it back home. Sarah gripped the doorknob, turned it, and ran inside, slamming the door and locking it behind her. Sarah's mother heard the door slam, and she ran from the laundry room to see who it was. Her father heard the door as well from the study, and got up from his chair to see who it was as well.
Sarah, sweetie, is that you? It's about time you got home. This isn't healthy.
Yes, Sarah, dear. I think it's about time for you to stop.
After they said this, they saw her at the door with Mike. They started to cry tears of joy, speechless, even though they had many questions. They didn't say a word, just happy knowing that their little boy and daughter were home. Their mother took Mike and Sarah's hands and held them tightly. She started smothering him with kisses, just thankful he was alive. She saw that he was malnourished and took him to the kitchen to give him a bite to eat. After he'd eaten, they rushed him to the hospital to get him checked out. The doctors examined him and couldn't find anything else wrong with him other than being malnourished.
Well, I can't find anything else wrong with the boy. He seems in perfect health. All he needs now is some love of his family and a full stomach. I do suggest he talks to someone. I will contact my colleague, Dr. Jones. He's a professional child psychologist. However, by law, I do have to call the authorities about this type of situation.
The doctor called the sheriff and rushed right over to the hospital to question the boy. The sheriff was a rough-looking man, almost like he had seen hell and came back with a tough exterior. He approached Mike slowly and started to question him.
Okay, son, whenever you're ready, tell me exactly what happened to you 3 years ago.
The sheriff said in a raspy voice, almost as if he had smoked over 1,000 cigarettes in his lifetime.
I would tell you, but you might not believe me.
Son, I've lived for a very long time, and I have heard the strangest things in my time as a sheriff. What you have to say probably wouldn't surprise me in the least. Take your time and remember what you can tell me.
All I can remember, 3 years ago, is that I was fighting with my sister, and I stormed off into the crowd. There was a bright light and then darkness. I heard a voice telling me that I could never go home, that I was there for eternity. I didn't know what it was or if a year or two had passed, because where I was didn't exist at all.
The sheriff scratched his head as he continued to question him, but stopped when he realized he wasn't getting anywhere. He closed his notebook, tipped his hat to the boy, and walked out of the room to talk to his parents. Well, I'm completely clueless here. Talked to the boy for almost an hour, and I don't have anything to go on. All I can say is keep a close eye on him. And this time, make sure he isn't out of your sight.
Okay, Sheriff, we will.
We will. Good. I would like to question your daughter as well. Sarah talked to the sheriff and tried to explain to him what happened when her brother went missing. They talked for a good while out in the waiting room. After the sheriff finished getting her statement, they heard a loud crash and a scream coming from the examining room that Mike was in. Sarah and the sheriff ran back and found a nurse on the floor bleeding from her arm, and Mike was in the corner holding a scalpel in his hand. He was flipping out and screaming.
Don't let her near me. She's one of them. They're trying to take me back, but I won't go.
Sarah rushed to Mike's side, crouched down to his level, and wrapped her arms around him, speaking to him gently.
It's okay, Mike, you're safe. They're never going to get you again.
I'm not safe until this damn holiday's over with.
Sarah hugged her brother tightly and helped him up off the floor. She walked him back to his bed, and as she was helping him onto it, they saw the other nurses assist the bleeding nurse up. When they both looked at her, she was staring at them. Something felt wrong. Something was wrong. The nurse stared at them for a good minute, when her face started to change. Her mouth began to contort into a demonic smile. Her eyes turned bright green, just like the creature. Sarah and Mike were frozen in fear after seeing this. When the other nurses helped the bleeding nurse out of the room, Sarah and Mike sat down on his bed and ran out the door. As she passed the sheriff, she told him to watch her brother closely. The nurses took the bleeding nurse around the corner, and Sarah gave chase. When she reached the corner, she saw that they had disappeared without a trace. Feeling pissed off that she lost them, she turned around and started to walk back to Mike's room. That's when she heard a voice in her head.
You and your brother won this time, Sarah, but I'll be back. You haven't heard the last from the Wishmaker.
Several months later. A few months went by, and everything went back to the way it used to be. Well, almost. Sarah and Mike stopped fighting and became close as brother and sister. Sarah finally told Mike why she hated Halloween, and Mike hugged his sister and told her.
That's okay, sis. Now we both have a reason to hate Halloween.
Sarah smiled at Mike and agreed with him as she started to surround the house with crosses and salt. They were turning their home into a fortress, and each time their parents cleaned up the salt, they put it back. Now, every time October 31st rolls around, they pray to God that the Wishmaker doesn't return for them. The end?
A 2-for-1 special. It's always nice when that happens. Well, I hope that you enjoyed tonight's story and learned a little bit of something. One must always be very careful what they wish for. What I wish is for you to go and check out my two friends, Raggedy Anzy and Ghost Mummy. They both did terrific jobs, don't you think? Well, I promised you last time that I would provide a hint for what I hid in my video. So here it goes. You must see what you hear. I do hope that helps. Well, that's all for tonight, so ta-ta for now.